All right, we back and welcome back to the Speedy Brown Show. And we're talking about changes. That last track was entitled "You Change," featuring Tanika Brown and my niece Nene. So she dropped a verse on there, and was just talking about growing pains, about life, and about how when you're younger you do certain things, and it's sad when you see some of your peers that's your age still doing the same things that you was doing in high school. Now I run across some people that were still comparing gym shoes. I'm like, wow, are you serious? Man, we got grandkids and stuff like that. Just it's not about the clothes you wear or the car you drive. I mean, when you get older, you understand that these things are not as important as spending time with loved ones and family members. Those are things that we gotta really, really impress upon and think about, because you can't take none of that stuff with you when you go. So that is a part of change. The scripture says, when I was a child, I thought as a child. When I became older, I put away childish things. So some things, when you get older, you're going to have to put some things away. I remember back in the days, we used to play the dozens. I'm too old for that. We not about to do that. So that's one thing that has changed about me. I mean, and a lot of things, we don't recognize the changes that we have within ourselves. So I would suggest to you that maybe you should start journaling, like keeping a journal. I mean, and I'm one to talk because I keep one, but I sporadically write in it. But you have
I'm the same way too. I gotta write more in my journal because we can't remember everything that happens, all the details of our everyday life, or significant things that happen. And you may say, "Oh, I'm gonna remember that for the rest of my life." You may wake up next week and forget the details of it.
Well, remember the experience, but when you
so journaling is good.
Yeah, when you journal that stuff, it helps you look at your growth, and then it helps you to know yourself. And when you get to know yourself, to that one saying, "To thine own self be true." How can you be true to yourself if you do not know yourself? And you learn your isms, your schisms, the things that you like, and then your pet peeves, your quirks, the things that you don't like. And those things, when you journal that stuff, it helps you to navigate through different emotions and stuff. Like, I literally feel like I live in a time bubble, or I'm like some kind of, I don't know what you would call it, because sheltered life, because a lot of this foolishness and a lot of stuff that's going on in the world, I see it, but I don't see it. And I try to ignore it, but I can't ignore it because it's affecting the youth. It's affecting people around
That's
us.
The future.
People around us. Like, when you look at some of the youth now, they barely can hold a conversation. Like, they were, yeah. And it's kind of sad, and I believe it's like the Hunger Games. Like, life is literally like the Hunger Games.
What do you mean? Like, in what aspect?
The aspect of where you got people in certain communities, and then they pull one person out or a couple people out, and then they, I guess, deitize them and make them like super deities, and everybody start worshiping them and idolizing them and mimicking their lifestyle. Just like the Wiz thing, like Red. You can be caught dead with Red, but imagine somebody challenging the change of the status quo. Usually those people are ostracized, and sometimes sadly they're taken out, and just so many different things that happen to people who speak up. And I guess that's why a lot of people are afraid to speak up. Either they being paid off, or they just rolling with the punches.
Yeah, sometimes they don't want to be confronted with that backlash of what happens when they speak up. But you know what? The very thing that you are speaking up about or on, that situation, I can guarantee you at least 5 other people have that same situation, that same issue that you're that you're bringing up.
Or that same thought.
They may be a little, they may be more apprehensive to say anything. They may be a little bit more reserved, like, I can't say that, or they don't have that outgoing speaking ability like you have. So they don't say anything, and their voice gets unheard.
Right. I remember I was in a training class for this company, and you know, during training, the trainer would just speed through the process. The trainer taught the class as if everybody had already worked there before, as if everybody already knew exactly what to do. And
oh wow! So there's no room for you to really ask questions, or
no? I had to stop her because there was no way that I could continue with the class without not knowing what to do. And it's the case of the emperor's new clothes. Now, I don't know if you guys heard me mention this story before, but there was an emperor who made a decree that whoever would make him these lavish new clothes, that he would give them half the kingdom and yada yada yada, great treasures and rewards and whatnot. So there was these scammers, these two schemers. They came up with an idea. They was going to make the best clothing. Well, they didn't start off scheming. They was going to make the clothing, but they started procrastinating. They started slacking, and then the king came and was looking for his clothes, and they didn't have them ready yet. So they came up with a scheme, and they decided to say that if anybody who's foolish or stupid, they won't be able to see this new fabric. This fabric is magical, and only the smartest of the smartest people can see this fabric, and only the most intelligent people in the land can see this fabric. And so the king did not, so the messenger didn't want to look foolish, so he went and showed the king and told the king the story with this invisible fabric. And the king didn't want to seem unwise in front of his subjects, and therefore he pretended to see something that was not there. And so the king decided to have a great parade and decree that he was having a day to honor him in his new clothing. So the king came out naked, and everybody murmured within themselves because they did not want to seem unwise in front of the king. And suddenly there was a young boy in the crowd that yelled out, "The king is naked."
So he was the brave soul that spoke up. Yeah. He said what everybody else was thinking, but they just wanted to go along with status quo. They just wanted to go along with what the king said, just because he was the king, and everybody, they didn't want to go against the grain.
They didn't want to go against the grain of what was going on.
It took that little boy to say, "Hey,
right,
hey, he naked."
Right, right. So
which was the truth.
And we're dealing with that right now. A lot of people are naked and destitute and unlearned, and they just go on with the status quo with everything that everybody is doing, and they not growing because never mind. Sometimes it's just like rada. That's all I be able to say.
Yeah,
but change is very uncomfortable. And change can make you it can make you or break you. You can imagine what a seed goes through to grow. Let's go through the metamorphosis of the seed. Okay, I'll take the first couple stages and you can
go ahead.
So the first metamorphosis of the seed is transformation. Rather, you take the seed and you plant it, you bury it in darkness, in dirt. You cover it up. It's all alone. There's nothing and nobody there. And being the seed, you probably think that this is it. It is over. Then all of a sudden there's a movement within you, and sprouts begin to break out, and roots begin to go down deep into the ground. Then suddenly you sprout up from out the dirt, and you rained upon you, and you fertilized by all kind of different creatures and animals, and then you growing and you prospering, and it's a totally different experience than what you had underground. as a seed. Now you sprouted and you went forth, and that change was not comfortable, but it was well worth it because you became something different.
So it was worth being in the dark for a little while.
For a little while.
It was worth being by yourself for a little while.
Right.
You know, because, you know, when, like you said, once that movement started happening and the dirt started falling off of you and your stem started coming out the dirt, people started seeing you. They're like, oh,
right.
That's that seed that was planted 2-3 weeks ago.
Right.
4 or 5 months ago,
right.
a year ago, or whatever that case. You're that seed. So look at her. Look at him. That's who was working on their book or working on their company 2 and 3 years ago. Look at them now.
Right.
Look at that seed growing and sprouting, spreading its leaves, allowing the rain to continue to rain up on it so it can continue to grow, allowing the sun to shine up on it so it can continue to grow. Look at you. Look at you. Well, all right.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like that. That's what life is like. It's a continual, constant change from semen to a fertilized egg, from an egg to a baby, from a fetus to a baby, from a baby to a newborn, and so forth. It's constant change. So why do you think that you have to stay the same? Just how I am. Well, then, my friend, sadly, you are stuck and you are stagnant, and when you stagnant, you stink. So you gotta change. You gotta grow. Change is sometimes uncomfortable, but necessary, and sometimes expedient, and sometimes great. But change.
I'm gonna keep it real with you. So when you changing, as we said, it may be a little uncomfortable. We may not want to go through that change. But first thing I would suggest that maybe you could do is assess the situation. You know, see what it is that's causing the change, or what it is that you would have to do to adapt to the change, or to get a little bit more comfortable with what is going on. You may not ever adapt to it. You may not ever get comfortable with it, but how can you? So first thing we want to do, I would suggest, is to assess the situation, assess what the changes, what the requirement is, right?
Right.
You know, so that's part of it. And then, you know, how do I make an assessment? Make a checklist. This is practical things, practical applications that we can use to help us through this process of life, which we call this change that we call life, because life is always changing. There's something changing, right?
It's a flip side to this too. It's a flip side to this because sometimes God is pushing us to change, and we don't want that change. We don't welcome it because it's forcing us to grow. It's forcing us to expand or leave our comfort zones, which we have gotten so used to. And that's not easy, to step out of your comfort zone, to expand or broaden your horizons. Now, many of us, we probably don't read a lot of books now, but I challenge you to read, to grow your mind before they make reading illegal. If you get what I'm saying, like it once was, there's nothing new under the sun. And they may only start putting out material that they want us to read, that this is the only allotted material that you have. So expand your mind, grow your thoughts, and change for the better. Do something that you've never done before. Have a new experience that you've never had before. I ain't talking about nothing perverse or sexual. I'm talking about go somewhere different, see some different scenery, do some different things, meet some new people, try to learn a new language. Just do something different. Learn an instrument. Just stretch yourself. Stretch yourself beyond your normal capabilities or what you're used to. Grow.
Right now. Growth.
Growth. Nothing wrong with growth.
No, it's not. And like I was saying, you know, and if to help you get adapted to or to work through that thing, create a checklist. And I wasn't done with that part. I was